Welcome back to DHN. I'm your host, as always, Wade Teamer. And as you can see, guys, you've probably heard already, but Flare now has a stable coin, and that is what we're going to dive into in this edition, guys. I've been covering Flare for almost a year and a half now, and I'm glad that I decided to make that choice to add Flare to my list of content, my content roster. Now, if you want to check out what that content roster is, I'll leave a link to our Medium page where we just published a full article on it. But let's talk about DeFi on Flare being boosted by Hex Trust USDX stablecoin. They stole XRP's Ripple's stablecoin name. They're not going to like that. But it states, digital asset custodian Hex Trust Group with billions in assets under custody has announced the first native stablecoin on blockchain for data, Flare. The one-to-one US dollar referencing USDX is launching with a dedicated clear pool vault that enables holders to earn a real-world yield. So yes, we are talking about real-world asset tokenization on Flare alongside of the stablecoin movement. This is very interesting to me. Like I said, I've been following Flare since they got into the space. I was initially a part of that original snapshot. If you were holding XRP, you were supposed to get a certain amount of Flare tokens. Yeah, it didn't happen. They addressed it. We had to move on. I kept following the Flare network though. Then they started to attract players like Google. And once that happened, yeah, I had to make sure that the people who follow me, who listen to this channel, members of the DHN committee, you had to know what Flare was, because what Flare does is allow smart contracts to be a universal feature. For those who don't understand what that means, without smart contracts, you can't get that NFT related to your video game. Without smart contracts, you can't get 3, 4, or 500% yield on that dumb meme token that you're chasing. Flare. But I digress, guys. Let's finish the story out, because we're also going to talk about the history between Hex and the Flare network. This isn't a first timer. Hex and Flare have been associated going back 4 years now, as well as we're going to talk about Clearpool's role in all of this. They're a very interesting player. And then we're going to end with other updates from the Flare ecosystem. We have a Songbird state connector upgrade, Raindex, centralized exchange trading coming to Flare, kinetics, lending and borrowing, and it all ties into each other, which is very interesting. And I think I make that point every time I talk about Flare. It is the synergy, something about that synergy. Now, again, if you like crypto assets being covered from a utility perspective, hit that subscribe. Now let's dive into this. Developed by HT Digital Assets, Hex Trust tokenization ecosystem USDX will provide a vital DeFi primitive on Flare with backing maintained at a steadfast 1-to-1 ratio against the US dollar or equivalently valued assets. These reserves, which primarily consist of 1 to 3 month treasury bills, are securely held by regulated tier 1 financial institutions, ensuring that holders can place their trust in the value and resilience of the stablecoin. Now, very interesting point that needs to be made before we go any further. Some of you may be aware that Hex Trust is a Hong Kong based institution. They have offices in Singapore, Italy, and the UAE. But in every place where they have their offices, they're also licensed to do business. They have the VARA license from the UAE, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority gave them clearance, as well as the Monetary Authority of Singapore. What I find to be interesting is that as of right now, this US dollar, this US backed stablecoin is primarily supported by treasury bills. There's been a lot of talk about real world asset tokenization, and the majority of these products being tokenized right now are treasury bill type assets. Very interesting. In addition, though, when you do the digging on Hex Trust, they also work with a lot of major US companies, IBM. So, hey, something could be forming. But let's finish this out here. USDX will serve as a building block for the emerging DeFi and bridging ecosystem on Flare. In addition to being utilized in applications including lending and borrowing protocols or perpetual futures exchanges, USDX can also be staked to a dedicated T pool, created by Clearpool to offer real-world yield. Users will be able to stake and unstake at any time without lockup periods, maximizing returns through both the base yield and bonus flare incentives. Staking USDX on Clearpool returns CUSDX, which can be used as collateral in Flare Labs' F asset system, which we'll talk a little bit about that too before we get out of here, supporting the use of non-smart contract assets such as Bitcoin, Doge in DeFi on Flare. Now, for whatever reason, they forgot to add XRP, but when you look at the F assets documentation, still talks about XRP. So this USDX stablecoin will be compatible with XRP. That is my assumption. So that's the story. Hex Trust will be providing the custodianship for the stablecoin, the USDX, that will be running on Flare. And thanks to Clearpool, you'll be able to use the USDX for DeFi and other yield related activities. So that's massive, guys. But let's talk about who the Hex Trust is. Digital asset custodian for many ecosystems. They've been around since 2018, ladies and gentlemen. And like I mentioned, UAE, Hong Kong, Singapore, Vietnam as well, and Italy. So that's their coverage. You can see here, digital asset service provider registration from France, trusted company organization out of Hong Kong, the VARA license out in Dubai, and the OAM registration. I believe Algorand also has that registration out in Italy. And it's very funny. One of the partners in the Hex Trust ecosystem, we'll get to it in a second. But you can look at some of the investors, guys. Big names here: Animoca Brands, BCW, Borderless, BlockFi, CoinList, Kinetic, Morgan Creek, Ripple. Yeah, I remember when that got involved here. Big players, though, behind Hex Trust. They've been around for a long time, so it's to be expected. When it comes to who they serve and what they do, they work with banks, asset managers, exchange-traded funds, hedge funds, VCs, insurance, pensions, sovereign wealth funds, CBDCs. The list goes on. They're a digital asset custodian. So what that means is if a company doesn't want to hold a digital asset of any kind, they don't want to hold it, be responsible for the management of it, the taxes, all of that paperwork, Hex Trust provides that service for you. So I'm seeing that these types of companies are very important in the space because these digital assets, because there are so many denominations and so many different types and so many different functions, and you have to specialize in multiple assets. You have to have a discipline for multiple assets in order to work in these types of fields as a custodian, because it's not just holding on. You're not just, as a digital asset custodian, holding on to 100,000 in fiat. No, you're holding on to 100,000 in treasuries, in ETFs, in Bitcoin, in Solana, in whatever. That management, people pay for that. Okay. So Hex Trust, very prominent position in the industry. They've worked with a number of foundations, guys, and you can see right at the top, Flare, like I said, been working together since 2020. Other names on this list you might find to be very interesting: Algo, Celo, Hedera, Clayton, Tezos, Polkadot, Polygon. I mean, do you want to know why I've been talking about Clayton recently? It's because they're tied in. And I say it in every video. I'm not holding any Clayton right now. I will when I get the opportunity, but I've already invested in the Elite 8. The assets that I'm branching off into, guys, these are not these fly-by-night DeFi projects that come and go. These are the companies, the protocols that have stayed, made it through 2020 crash, made it through 2022's crash, made it through 2023's crash, forgot a year, made it through 2021's crash, and they still here. I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but I want to invest in that. I'm just saying. But long list of protocol foundations, man. And when it comes to Web3, metaverse, gaming, they're in that section as well. Some of their biggest partners, Sandbox, Union Bank, more recently out in the Philippines. Might have to read into that. But Hex Trust is all over the board. And like I've been mentioning, they started working with Flare back in 2020 to support the Spark token airdrop. We all were there. We remember that. But this is when the relationship between Flare and Hex Trust started. A little bit after that, they added support for staking of Songbird in 2021. The Canary financial institutions and organizations holding the network's native token, SGB, can delegate their voting power to Hex Trust markets and claim rewards by staking from their Hex Safe account. So this was allowing Hex Trust customers to use Songbird as a additional way to earn yield on the assets that they were holding. Very big, very big. And then in 2023, Hex Trust provided delegation support as an FTSO data provider for the Flare network. So the Flare time series Oracle, this is the core component to the Flare network without getting too deep. It's a very core component. I'll link you to a video where I break down FTSO, the F assets, the layer cake, all of the important pieces for the Flare network. That's what you'll get on this channel. I don't follow what the herd is doing. You invest in this asset because you believe that it can do something. I'm going to make a video that will explain to you how it does it. So there. I feel like I need to make that known as we continue into this next path, because it's going to get wild, not just from an investor, not just because the market's going to be volatile, but imagine what we're going to be going through over the next few months as content creators. I'm optimistic. Don't get me wrong. I'm aiming for 100K subscribers by the end of 2025. If it happens by the end of this year, well, boy, I hit a magic trick, but I'm being conservative because I know the next 12 to 18 months are going to look like halving post-halving 2020 for Bitcoin. The market is already looking like that. DeFi, NFTs, quieting down, gaming, meme coins, increasing. This is exactly what it looked like for Ethereum in 2021. Ethereum went from 200 to 3,000. Solana is sitting at 200 roughly with the exact same ecosystem with a much faster blockchain. And that's just one portion of the market. Now you have assets out here like Flare with support, giving assets like Bitcoin, Doge, and XRP the ability to compute smart contracts. I've never been more excited about this industry in my life. Now, outside of that, guys, another player was involved, Clearpool. They partnered with Hex back in 2021 to deliver decentralized capital markets ecosystem, and Clearpool, the first decentralized credit marketplace. These are a lot of loans, ladies and gentlemen, but you can take a look at their offerings here. Pretty nice APRs for some pretty big name assets. Mantle's heavy into gaming, so that's very interesting. Prime offering credit vault. So what they do is offer institutional grade staking for enterprises, large organizations. They have a Prime product, which, as you can see, KYC and AML compliant access to the largest global network for wholesale borrowing and lending of digital assets. That's very interesting because in the list of updates that Flare has been kicking out in the last few months, this one actually goes back to December of last year. So great way to start 2024. Kinetic to introduce lending and borrowing to the Flare ecosystem. It says they will offer users a seamless platform for participating in DeFi, complete with the potential to earn block rewards using their supplied digital assets. The collaboration will introduce lending and borrowing capabilities essential for deepening liquidity and fostering a robust DeFi ecosystem. So I feel like there's a lot of synergy between Clearpool and Kinetic. Again, very good thing to see. On top of that, guys, May 16th, Stake Connector upgrade was completed on Songbird. This upgrade will enable smooth integrations of F assets on Songbird, supporting the seamless transfer and utilization of non-smart contract tokens on the network. It includes the addition of a new stake connector assetation type that allows the system to prove whether a given XRP address is valid. Now, quick question here. Did they have this problem before? And is this the reason why XRP holders did not get their Spark tokens? Because you couldn't verify which XRP address was legit? Better question. I might hop on X and see who I can ask to try to figure that out for us. Outside of this, though, we have Raindex launching on Flare to power decentralized exchange style trading. So what that means is they want to make the experience, the DeFi trading experience, a lot similar to the centralized trading experience. So we're talking as far as user interface goes, which is a very interesting play. It says that the Raindex app utilizes the intuitive Lang smart contract language, giving anyone the ability to design, write, and deploy, manage customized token trading strategies while leveraging Flare's native decentralized priced Oracle, the FTSO, for reliable and secure asset price triggers. So what that is going to look like, if you're an investor, is your experience on the trading platform or the coming trading platforms for Flare. It's going to be seamless. That's the best way that I can put that. My job here with this channel is to take all of this developer lingo and these highly university style written documents and simplify it for you. Give it to you at the product level, so that way it makes the investment decision easier. Whatever the decision you decide to make, or you can decide not to invest. That is fine by me. I'm gonna keep making these videos. Now, lastly, guys, we have, and this was in February. I was out in February, but XDFI, the world's first compliant decentralized futures protocol, is making its way to Flare. They have announced a partnership with Syndric Solutions to launch XDFI, a new decentralized futures protocol created by Wall Street veterans. XDFI aims to raise industry standards for compliance and efficiency, delivering a trustless, non-custodial futures contract purchasing environment that operates 24/7. So we have another DeFi application making its way to Flare. And when you really think about it, DeFi, smart contracts, they literally go hand in hand. So it makes sense why Flare is aiming in this direction. Smart contracts allow for programmable payments. The smartest place to have a programmable form of payment would be on a decentralized or centralized exchange, not to have for malicious reasons. It's to ensure that when you press that trade button, you get what you're trading for. Beauty of smart contracts, the beauty of the Flare network. You don't have to be paid by Flare to understand why it is so important. That's all I'm going to say. I want to end with this bit here, guys. Quick explanation of what F assets are. The F asset system allows non-smart contract tokens such as BTC, Doge, and XRP to be used trustlessly with smart contracts on Flare. More than 70% of the total value of blockchain assets do not have smart contracts and therefore unable to participate in the decentralized economy. By minting these non-smart contract tokens into F assets, they can be put to work earning yields or rewards in decentralized applications on the Flare network. Once F assets are on Flare, they can also be bridged to other networks using the layer cake. So to Songbird networks, to Bitcoin, to Doge, to XRP. It's going to revolutionize this entire market. Now, I posted a video earlier today talking about the political landscape of everything going on right now. I really advise you to watch that video, especially if Flare is getting into the game of US dollar stablecoins and backing them with treasury bills. You need to know what's going on a political side. So check that out. And if you want to pick up some crypto, Flare, for one of their partners, as well as our partner, Uphold, is where I'm getting mine right now. Link to that will be in the description. You can get crypto, you can get gold, you can get fiat, and depending on what country you're in, I think you can get stocks. Don't quote me on that. Either way, whichever one you decide to get into, always know that these assets are still volatile, so never risk more than what you're willing to lose. Now, if you decide to take that risk, I would advise you to take your assets off an exchange and put them into self-custody, aka use a hardware wallet. The one we're using right now is the SafePal hardware wallet. They've been a partner for a couple of years. Link to that will be down in the description. I do get compensated if you use one of the links below. I thank you in advance. With that, it's time for the best part. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.